River Valley Civilizations. River Valley Civilizations. During the Bronze Age, areas around the Indus Valley in the Indian subcontinent, the Nile Valley in Egypt, the valleys of Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, and Huanghe in China became centers of civilizations. Why did civilizations develop on river banks? The earliest civilizations developed on river banks as there was enough water to support large settlements. Crops grew in plenty in the fertile lands. The rivers also helped in transporting goods from one place to another. The increased trade helped in the growth of towns and cities. The Mesopotamian Civilization. Mesopotamia is a broad, fertile valley between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates in West Asia. The earliest and most advanced culture that flourished in this valley is the Sumerian Civilization. Sumer. On the northeastern side of Sumer were regions called Babylonia and Akkad, and the highlands in the north were called Assyria. Around 3500 BCE, the Sumerians developed the world's first civilization, which flourished for 1500 years. The Babylonian and then Assyrian civilizations grew here in their place. Sumerian Cities. The discovery of the Sumerian city of Ur showed us how the people of Mesopotamia lived. The city was divided in three parts: the sacred area, the walled city on a mound, and the outer town. The sacred area had the temple tower or ziggurat dedicated to the patron god of the city. People lived in the walled city and the outer town areas. Life in Mesopotamia. The main occupation of the Mesopotamians was agriculture. They invented the ox-drawn plough to increase the agricultural yield. They also made the wheeled wagon to transport goods. They are considered to be the first to have cultivated wheat. They had flourishing trade and commerce with the Mediterranean countries, Egypt and also India. Their art and architecture was well advanced. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Achievements of the Mesopotamian civilization. The Mesopotamians invented and developed a system of writing known as cuneiform. They wrote from right to left with a stylus. The Mesopotamians were skilled mathematicians. They counted in tens and sixties. Hammurabi, the king of Babylon, compiled a code of law dealing with every aspect of life. This code of law is one of the oldest legal codes known to humans. The Egyptian civilization. The ancient Egyptian civilization developed in the valley of the river Nile. The Greek historian Herodotus called Egypt the gift of Nile, as the river would flood each year and leave fertile soil behind. The kingdoms of Egypt. The history of ancient Egypt is divided into 3 periods. The Old Kingdom, approximately 3000 BCE to 2000 BCE. The Middle Kingdom, approximately 2000 BCE to 1700 BCE. The New Kingdom, approximately 1600 BCE to 1100 BCE. From the earliest times, Egypt was divided into 2 parts: Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt. About 3200 BCE, these were united and ruled by pharaohs. This brilliant civilization lasted till the last pharaoh, Cleopatra, died in 30 BCE. Occupation. The chief occupation of Egyptians was agriculture, which yielded rich harvests. They also built elaborate networks of canals, dams, and dikes. They also used the Nile to carry on trade with neighboring countries. The pyramids. The ancient Egyptians believed in life after death. They made splendid tombs and filled it with everything needed for the dead to have a better afterlife. This inspired them to make giant pyramids and tombs, which are architectural wonders even today. The Great Pyramids at Giza are one of the 7 wonders of the world. Egyptian achievements. The Egyptians developed a form of writing called hieroglyphic script, sacred writing, and made paper from papyrus, a water reed. Besides making the world's first solar calendar, they were the first to make an instrument to observe the movement of the stars. The Egyptians had a highly advanced system of mathematics and also invented the water clock to read the time at night. The highly preserved mummies show us the advanced knowledge of medicine and human anatomy. Egyptian achievements. The Egyptians developed a form of writing called hieroglyphic script, sacred writing, and made paper from papyrus, a water reed. Besides making the world's first solar calendar, they were the first to make an instrument to observe the movement of the stars. The Egyptians had a highly advanced system of mathematics and also invented the water clock to read the time at night. The highly preserved mummies show us the advanced knowledge of medicine and human anatomy the Egyptians had. The Chinese civilization. In the valleys of the rivers Huanghe and Yangtze-Kiang in China grew a wonderful and distinct civilization 4,500 years ago. Fertile soil, temperate climate, and natural waterways connecting various parts of this huge country provided ideal conditions for the growth of this civilization. The first known dynasty in China was the Shang dynasty. It was followed by many dynasties. In society, the position of the emperor was the highest, followed by the nobles, merchants, craftspeople, farmers, and slaves. Religion. Initially, the Chinese worshipped the forces of nature. Later, they became followers of Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Confucianism was a religious movement named after its Chinese founder Confucius. Occupation. The chief occupation was agriculture. They were the first to cultivate tea. They were also the first to make silk cloth. The Chinese developed the art of making porcelain from a special type of clay. They also created beautiful woodwork inlaid with ivory. Trade in silk, chinaware, tea, and paper was carried out with Japan, India, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. Script. The Chinese developed a script which is a form of picture writing. Each picture represents an idea. Contributions of the Chinese. The Great Wall of China is an example of the brilliance of Chinese architecture. The Chinese were the first to make paper, after which they developed the art of block printing. By 9th century CE, they were printing books. They invented the gunpowder, the mariner's compass, the watermill, the wheelbarrow, umbrella, and kites. The first seismograph was made by the Chinese. The Greek civilization. The first Greek civilization flourished in the island of Crete between 3000 BCE and 1400 BCE. It was known as the Minoan civilization. By 1400 BCE, the Minoans were attacked and defeated by the Mycenaeans, who lived on the mainland of Greece. After some years, the Mycenaean civilization also came to an end. From around 800 BCE, the Greeks once again began to trade with other lands and became rich. This period was known as the Age of Classical Greece. City-states. Around 800 BCE, people in Greece lived in city-states. The two most important city-states were Athens and Sparta. Each city-state had its own army and formed its own government and laws. Democracy. It was from the ancient Greeks that democratic form of governance was learnt. Life in ancient Greece. The society was patriarchal. Women stayed at home and worked while men went out to work. In rich households, women had servants and slaves to work for them. Agriculture was the main occupation of the people. A flourishing trade existed between the cities. Each city worshipped its own local gods. Some of the famous gods and goddesses were Zeus, Athena, Aphrodite, and Apollo. The Olympic Games. Many festivals were celebrated in honor of the gods, and one of the most important was the festival for Zeus. It was held in the city of Olympia and was known as the Olympian Games. In 1896, the Games were started once again in Paris, and the name was changed to Olympic Games. Writing. The Greeks had an alphabet formed by letters. Their first two letters of the alphabet, alpha and beta, are somewhat similar to the letters A and B in English. Art and culture. The Greek civilization is famous for its literature. Greece had many fine poets and writers. Homer was a great poet, and his two famous works were Iliad and Odyssey. Their great thinkers were Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Architecture. Many buildings of ancient Greece are still intact today. The most important building is the Parthenon, a temple built for Athena, goddess of wisdom. The Roman civilization. The ancient Roman civilization grew along the coast of Italy and on the banks of the river Tiber from about 2nd century BCE to 5th century BCE. The most famous town in this region was Rome. Government. Rome was ruled by kings till 509 BCE. After the last king was defeated, Rome became a republic. The Roman Republic was ruled by a group of men from important families known as senators and two senior officials called consuls. Army. The Roman army was very well trained and had the best of weapons. Forts, camps, and a good network of roads were built throughout the empire for the Roman troops. Society. The Roman society was divided into two groups, the patricians and the plebeians. The patricians belonged to the upper strata of society and advised the kings. The plebeians were the common people of Rome, such as farmers and artisans. Religion. The Romans worshipped many gods and goddesses and built temples in their honor. Literature. Rome had great scholars, poets, and dramatists. Roman literature was greatly influenced by Greek scholars. Architecture. The Romans were great builders. They built towns that were well planned. They constructed roads, aqueducts, bridges, and amazing buildings. Some of the famous buildings are the Pantheon, a temple dedicated to Roman gods; the Forum, which was a meeting place; the Colosseum, which was used for public events. Most of our modern-day culture shows Roman influence. The Indus Valley Civilization. Between 3000 BCE and 2000 BCE, a highly advanced urban civilization developed on the banks of the river Indus. This civilization was known as the Indus Valley Civilization, and it belonged to the Chalcolithic age. Discovery of the civilization. Harappa is situated on the banks of the river Ravi in the Montgomery district of western Punjab in Pakistan. Mohenjo-daro is located on the banks of the river Indus in the Larkana district of Sindh, now in Pakistan. The civilization was known as the Indus Valley Civilization because the main centers of this civilization were first discovered around the river Indus and its tributaries. It is also called the Harappan civilization, as Harappa was the first site to be discovered, and the features of the other sites resemble those of Harappa. The extent of the Indus Valley Civilization. The Indus Valley Civilization extended far beyond the Indus Valley to many parts of northern and western India. Some major sites of this period are Lothal, Gujarat, Ropad, Punjab, Kalibangan, Rajasthan, Alamgirpur, Uttar Pradesh, and Banwali, Haryana. The two newest sites are Rakhigadhi in Haryana and Dholavira in Gujarat. Features of the civilization. The Indus Valley people were highly civilized and gave to the world their earliest cities, their unique town planning, their superb architecture in stone and clay, and their perfect example of sanitary engineering and drainage system. Buildings. The Indus Valley people were skillful builders. They used burnt bricks to make buildings and roads. The buildings were of two types, dwelling houses and public buildings. Dwelling houses. Most of the houses that have been found are double-storied with flat roofs. Some had only 2 rooms and some had around 20 rooms. There was a courtyard in the middle of the house. Public buildings. The Great Bath was found in the city of Mohenjo-daro. It looked like a large swimming pool. The Great Bath was probably used for religious purposes. Agriculture. One of the most important activities carried out by the people of the Indus Valley Civilization was farming. They grew vegetables, wheat and fruits. They also domesticated animals like sheep and buffaloes. Trade. Flourishing trade took place between the Indus Valley people and the people of Mesopotamia, Persia and Afghanistan. We know that trading took place because of the seals that were discovered. Administration. The administration of the Indus Valley Civilization seems to have been very efficient. Each city was probably looked after by a committee of rich merchants and priests. The decline of the civilization. The civilization came to an end around 1500 BCE. It may have been destroyed by floods and people may have shifted to safer places. There could have been epidemics, or there may even have been invasions by Central Asian tribes, which could have brought a decline. Whatever may be the cause of decline, they have left behind much to admire and learn from.